Welcome back. So you saw us work out this one. Now we're going to work out these, and they're pretty much the same. So if you want to give them a try and then check out the video to see if everything went right. It says here our square is 12 times 12, which means our diameter is 12 times the square root of 2. This should tell you, wait a minute, that must mean the radius is 6 times the square root of 2. So the dimensions of my square are 12 times 12. So the area of the shaded region would be the area of my circle minus the area of this square. My circle is radius times pi. My squared is just this side times this side, so 12 times 12 would be the area of my square. So my radius is 6 times the square root of 2, and 6 times the square root of 2 times a pi minus 144, and we got to round it to the nearest tenth. Let's do it. 6 times the square root of 2 times 6 times the square root of 2 times pi minus 144. Whoop. Inches squared. Hopefully that's the answer you got. If you clean this up a little bit, 6 times 6 is 36. Square root of 2 times the square root of 2 we know is the square root of 4. But the square root of 4 is 2. So ultimately, I could have rewritten this 36 times 2 times pi minus 144. Or 72 times pi minus. Lots of possible answers there. Yep, I got the same answer. Next guy. Now it says the square is 22 inches. So this would be 22 times the square root of 2. So half of that, if the diameter of the circle is 22 times the square root of 2, hopefully you're thinking the radius must be 11 times the square root of 2. So the area of the shaded region would be the area of our circle. Take away the area of the square. So the area of our circle would be radius times the radius times pi, and our square is just 22 by 22. So all this we can put in our calculator. Okay, so I got 276.3 inches squared. All right, now I'd like to clean it up and double check my answer just to make sure everything went okay. So 22 times 22 is this. 11 times 11 is 121. The square root of 22, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4. And remember, the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, so I could have just typed in this to my calculator. Let's double check we get the same answer. 242 times pi minus 484. Oh, same answer, yep. Okay, this one's a little different, but not really that much different. Now the area of the shaded region is the square. It looks like the area of the shaded region, I'm hoping. Think about it for a minute. Hopefully you were thinking the area of our square, take away that circle. It looks like we cut out a circle from our square. So really similar to what we did earlier, just flipped, because that's what's flipped in the picture. Now it says the diameter of this pesky little circle here is 6 times the square root of 2. Now originally that would have really thrown us off. But we actually see that that would be a really common diameter. We can see how that would happen. So if my diameter is 6 times the square root of 2, my radius must have been 3 times the square root of 2. And I think I already know the area of my circle here. Radius times the radius times pi. If my radius is this, right, then I think that makes sense. Now let's think about our square. If this distance is 6 times the square root of 2, what would this distance be? Or this distance be? Or this one? Or this one? Wait a minute. I think that is the length of my square, and that's the width of my square is 6 times the square root of 2, because that makes sense. So there is a slightly different relationship happening when I went from this problem to that problem, if I'm thinking about just spatial reasoning. Okay, so now my square is very different. The base, you can think of, base times height. The base is 6 times the square root of 2, and the height is 6 times the square root of 2, and that's the area of this square. It's a very different relationship here. So again, you can type all this in your calculator if you want, or you can clean it up and then type it in your calculator and round to the 10th. Fun. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. 6 times the square root of 2 times 6, so that would be 36. 6 times 6, and that's square root of 2 times square root of 2 is the square root of 4, and the square root of 4 is just plain old 2. So that's really interesting. The area of this square, even though it looks like it would be an ugly answer, the area of this big square is just the number 72. Pretty neat. I really like it when things start ugly looking but get cleaner. It makes us feel like we're on the right track. And here, 3 times 3 would be 9. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 is square root of 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. Okay, so I can type all this in or just that in. Both should give me the right answer. 72 minus 18. Oh, well, this is hard to type in. Let's see if this will work. So I'm going to use my parenthesis button here. I'm going to do 72 minus parenthesis 18 times pi end parenthesis. Oh, that was hard. I'm not sure. So if you're not sure, figure out what 18 pi is. We kind of did that on our perimeter. If you're not sure, so let's figure out what 18 pi is, and then we'll type it back in. So 18 times pi is just the number 56, 55. So that should make sense. I want 72 minus that number. So I want 72 minus the number 56, 55. And I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. There we go. Now I found an area, and I don't see, I'm just going to say inches squared. I don't know if this is inches or feet. Okay. Now let's do another one. It says the diameter of this circle. We could have also written the diameter horizontally, right? That's the diameter, or that's the diameter. And so the diameter is 10 times the square root of 2, which hopefully you're thinking, oh, that must be 5 times the square root of 2. You're also noticing they kind of, in a way, gave you the dimensions of this square, because if that's 10 times the square root of 2, that would also have to be 10 times the square root of 2. So maybe pause the video, use these notes, and see if you can figure this out on your own. Okay, let's see how it went. The area of this shaded region would be the area of our square minus the area of our circle, because they cut out the inside of that circle. Now our square, we said, is dimension 10 times the square root of 2 by 10 times the square root of 2. So that's the area of our square. Now if we subtract the area of our circle, we know the area of our circle is radius times pi, and we have our radius. So radius times the radius times pi. Okay, now let's clean this up a little bit. 10 times 10, 5 times 5. And again, those should be square root of 4, and the square root of 4 is that. So I have 200 take away 50 pi. So I kind of need to know, well, what is 50 pi? So let's look at that. 50 times pi is 157.08. Okay, so if I subtract 257, or subtract 157 from that, I get 42.9 inches squared. I assume that's in inches. Great job. Last one. Again, give it a shot. I hope it went well. Pause the video, see what happened. So our circle here had the diameter of the circle 12 times the square root of 2. So I'm hoping you'd think this would be the radius. So our area of the shaded region would be the area of our square, which is the dimension, 12 times the square root of 2 times 12 times the square root of 2. Take away the area of this circle, which is radius times the radius times pi. So that would be 144 times 2, 36 times 2, pi. Okay, so now we really just need to know what is 72 pi so that I can subtract it. Okay, so what is 72 pi? 72 times pi, 226.2. Okay, so 288 minus 226.2 is 61.8 inches squared. We've done it. Hope you guys have a fabulous weekend. See you next week. Great job.